On a public street in the Welsh seaside town of Rhyl, a heated argument took a dark, violent turn. A teenage girl was suddenly, viciously attacked, her breath stolen from her by the hands of 27-year-old Connor Gressley-Jones. This isn't just the story of a traumatic assault, but of the brave victim who fought for and found justice. Public violence always sends a shockwave through a community, and when it happens, the justice system is suddenly under a microscope. A case from the town of Rhyl in North Wales is a perfect example of this. It's a story about a brazen attack on a public street, a perpetrator with a shocking criminal history, and a young victim whose courage was the key to seeing him jailed. What happens when a man with over 100 prior offenses attacks a teenager in plain sight? And how does the law handle an act as terrifying as strangulation? This is the story of a cold January night, and the legal battle that came next. The night of January 24th, 2025, began as an ordinary one in Rhyl. The teenage victim, who legally cannot be named, had been out for the evening drinking and was walking back to her hotel. Just after 9:30 p.m., her path crossed with 27-year-old Connor Gressley-Jones on East Parade, a road that runs right along the seafront. What started as an argument exploded into violence. Gressley-Jones, a resident of Bath Street in Rhyl, punched the young woman in the face. Then he grabbed her by the neck, wrapped his hands around her throat, and began to strangle her. For several terrifying seconds, she couldn't breathe. The attack was sudden and brutal, made even more shocking by the fact it happened right out in the open. Physically, the assault left her with bruises and a small cut on her neck, but the psychological wounds were much deeper. After Gressley-Jones let her go, the terrified girl made it back to her hotel room. Once she was behind the closed door, the reality of what just happened hit her, and she simply cried. What makes this all the more disturbing is that Connor Gressley-Jones shouldn't have even been in Rhyl that night. He was under a domestic violence protection order that explicitly banned him from the town. His choice to not only ignore that order, but to then commit such a violent crime, showed a stunning disregard for the law and for the safety of anyone around him. In the quiet aftermath of an attack, a victim faces a difficult choice. For this teenage girl, the decision to come forward was an act of incredible courage. She reported the assault, and in doing so, started the slow, difficult process of getting justice. When officers questioned Gressley-Jones the next day, he gave no comment to their questions, a common tactic to stall an investigation, but it didn't work. District Support Sergeant Peter Griffiths made the force's position crystal clear, stating, "Violent and inexcusable behavior towards women will not be tolerated." He praised the victim's immense bravery, recognizing she had gone through a traumatic and terrifying experience. His statement was a promise to her and the community that this would be taken seriously, and a message to other victims that they would be heard. As police built their case, a fuller picture of Gressley-Jones began to emerge. This was far from his first run-in with the law. The prosecutor would later describe his criminal record as appalling, a history that included 38 previous convictions for a staggering 102 offenses. The judge noted that Gressley-Jones had been in front of courts with depressing regularity. This wasn't just a man who had made a mistake. It was a man with a long-established pattern of criminal behavior, a man who was already banned from the town he chose to attack someone in. The case eventually landed at Mold Crown Court. At first, Gressley-Jones pleaded not guilty, meaning his young victim would have to face him in court and relive the entire nightmare on the witness stand. But in a sudden reversal, on the very day the trial was set to begin, he changed his plea to guilty. It was a last-minute admission that spared the girl from having to testify. He pleaded guilty to intentional strangulation. This is a relatively new and serious offense under UK law, created because the justice system now recognizes that strangulation is an extreme form of violence. It's an act of terror and control, and a major red flag for future deadly behavior. The charge itself shows how seriously the law now views this specific act. At the sentencing hearing in April 2025, the court heard all the details. The prosecution laid out the facts, the argument, the punch, and the strangling that left the victim bruised and terrified. The defense lawyer, Andrew Jebb, argued that the attack was impulsive and that Gressley-Jones was extremely apologetic. He also mentioned that his client had been diagnosed with ADHD and had a good work ethic, trying to paint a picture of a man who was capable of staying out of trouble. But Judge Rhys looked at the facts and Gressley-Jones's history. He told him directly, "Although you're only 27, you've been before the courts with really depressing regularity." The judge saw a persistent offender, not a man who had made a one-time impulsive mistake. Connor Gressley-Jones was sentenced to 2 years in prison. On top of the jail time, the judge issued a 5-year restraining order to protect the victim from any future contact with him. In a separate matter that came to light in July 2025, Gressley-Jones was given an extra 30 days in prison for an unpaid fine of over £2,000 that had been outstanding for nearly a decade. Since June 2016, the sentencing of Connor Gressley-Jones brought the court case to an end. But the story leaves a lasting impact. At its heart, this is a story about a young woman who, after a horrifying assault, found the strength to see justice through. The police were right to praise her. As Sergeant Peter Griffiths said, "The victim has shown considerable bravery in coming forward to report what happened to her following a traumatic and terrifying experience. Her courage is what made this conviction possible." The 2-year sentence for a man with over 100 prior offenses might sound light to some, but the specific charge of intentional strangulation is key. Using this law sent a message that constricting someone's breathing isn't just assault. It's a life-threatening act of terror that will be met with serious consequences, including prison. The case also highlights the challenge of dealing with repeat offenders. Gressley-Jones wasn't new to the system. He was a man with an appalling record, who committed a violent crime, while he was already legally barred from the town. His story raises tough questions about how the justice system can manage people who show a clear and consistent pattern of breaking the law. In the end, this is a story of justice being served. It's a harsh reminder that violence can erupt anywhere, but it's also proof of a victim's resilience, a police force's dedication, and a court's ability to hold a dangerous person accountable. A brave young woman's voice ensured that a violent man was taken off the streets. If you find these stories of justice important, please consider liking and subscribing for more analysis of real-life cases. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for joining us for this look into the Connor Gressley-Jones case. The way that criminal behavior, the law, and the bravery of victims all intersect creates a picture that is complex but vital to understand. Until next time, stay safe and stay informed.